All right. Well, you know, on the fly, just trying to get everything all set up. Hello, everyone, and now welcome to, well, the patch review, the official 1.35 patch review of WarCraft 3 Reforged. Well, first things first, if you guys didn't know, there was a questionnaire sent out to a number of Blizzard, I guess, people who play Blizzard games. I don't know if you perhaps saw it, but there was news on whether or not Blizzard should relaunch Reforged, like do an official fix everything. I If I had gotten that questionnaire, I obviously would have said yes. I did not get that questionnaire, however. But well, let me know if you guys got that questionnaire in the comments below. Anyways, it looks like Blizzard is trying to right the ship on Warcraft 3 Reforged, trying to gauge the interest as we go ahead and dive into, well, patch 1.35, the official version. And since I am downloading right now, or I was downloading, probably don't have any really good replays, but I will just go ahead and do a quick official 135 review before trying to cast hopefully a good game for you guys. Anyways, general, first of all altar heroes gold costs were reduced from 425 to 400. And I already felt like getting your altar, getting a tavern, or all altar heroes. Oh, not tavern heroes. All altar heroes are now 400. Interesting. So that gives you a little bit more room to tech with. You don't have to save up nearly as much straight out of the gate. As you finish your tech to tier 2 or your tech to tier 3, the revive time factor is now reduced even more. So trying to get your hero out, back out onto the battlefield is actually going to be faster, not always as punishing to resurrect your hero from your altar as opposed to that tavern. So I like all the ways that they were playing with this on the playtest realm patch for quite some time. Anyways, let's go ahead and continue to move on. Let's All right. Blacksmith lumber cost reduced from 60 to 40, will help with riflemen. Easier to get a rifleman. A peasant hit point increase from 230 to 240. May get in an additional, may be able to take an additional hit or two, or hit, most likely. Spellbreaker armor increased from 2 to 3. Yeah, spellbreakers in general haven't, well, needed that little bit of extra armor since spellbreakers almost play that front line role, and because they have medium armor, well, it actually it helps reduce the amount of piercing damage that they take. But because they're in that front line spot so often, they end up taking damage from ghouls, damage from knights, things like that a little bit more, well, heavily. Siphon mana drain rate reduced from 15, 30, 45 to, okay, that a respectable change. At the lower levels, keep it the same, but at the higher levels, don't make it nearly as punishing because it was probably a problem. Polymorph cost reduced from 220 to 200. I don't see polymorph being used really all that often. Um, Polymorph only used on large, is only usable on units, unlike say Cyclone, which is able to be used on heroes even though it's for a shorter amount of time. Polymorph just hasn't been that powerful, ace up the sleeve for human, and I don't think this will change it all that much. Having dispel, if you already see sorceresses, you're going to be afraid of slow. You're going to already have access to dispel or disenchant, or whatever it is you use to remove debuffs. So I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. Siege engine barrage damage increase from 14 to 16. All right. Siege engine no longer decreases in unit level when getting the barrage upgrade. Okay, that no longer. I didn't really even know that much about it. Mass teleport cooldown increased, and it did feel like mass teleport. You were able to move around the map a bit too quickly, so that increase from 20 to 30 does put a little bit more of an edge to it. Staff of Sanctuary cost reduced from 250 to 200. I like that. Humans should all, like, just similar to how how Night Elves, all three heroes often have Staff of Preservation to save units. Staff of Sanctuary should be a similar thing. It is on a longer cooldown, so to take up an item slot on a hero with such a long cooldown, having it cost 50 less gold may be an incentive to try and actually hold on to it. Orb of Fire damage reduced from +7 to +5, so its overall its initial damage bonus isn't as strong, but the cost is also reduced as well from 325 to 250. See that here's a situation Orb of Fire. It's almost an absolute necessary item going up against Undead or anyone who else who has a strong burst heal. If you're seeing a lot of healing, Orb of Fire is a must. I think they're trying to balance Orb of Fire up against that Orb of Corruption, but the Orb of Corruption is an actual debuff that it affects all damage against against that unit as well. But they also want the uniqueness of it. They don't want to make it similar to, like, say, Orb of Venom, where there's damage over time. um, I I want to see if it um, increases the overall damage. I think the fact that it costs a little bit less means that it will be found on the Archmage more, and that's pretty much going to be it. The Archmage is going to be the primary unit that's going to hold on to it. Maybe the Mountain King or the Paladin if they need to attack some air units as well. All right, let's move straight on to Orc. Headhunter build time increased from 20 to 22 seconds. Massing headhunters was already had become very, very popular with all of their buffs, and they just want to make slow it down because they don't want to give Orc too much momentum, being able to crank out those units too quickly. Blade Master images now do 15% of the Blade Master's base damage. I love that. I love how it's going to be harder to spot which one is the real one. I also like that. Well, the Blade Master mirror images now give XP relative to their level. Interesting. They're the level what level 1 is similar to a peon, I believe. Level 2 is similar to a footman. Okay, so on and so forth. So as the hero gets stronger and its base damage gets stronger, so does the experience it gives. I like Blade Master play with Lightning Shield. I like Blade Master mirror image play with it as a way to break entangle in that Night Elf versus Orc matchup as well. So, very, very, very nice. Troll Bat Rider's Liquid Fire no longer prevents repair, but reduces repair rate. I think this was necessary. I think Troll Bat Riders were literally trolling. If they were able to, like, say, take down a haunted gold mine, and it wasn't, and the acolytes are sitting there just watching it burn because the liquid fire is preventing it. At least this way, the acolytes have some sort of method to try and do something with it. Endurance or a movement speed bonus reduced. Yeah, movement speed is always one of those things that was incredibly powerful. Giving Orc such fast movement speed, especially at level 4, that endurance aura was so strong. I don't think the level, I don't think the third level was really seen all that often. I mean, if you're dealing with a level 7 Tauren chieftain, then you have other problems than that, 10% movement speed bonus. A stasis trap activation delay. um, I don't know if it will affect the higher levels, but I think it will affect team play and how effective those are overall. Brute strength bonus increase hit points from 100 to 125. That should be great for grunts, making them longer or more useful in the late tier. Blade storm cooldown increased. Well, that will make blade masters much more viable. Having an effective ability in combat and then being able to use that for the next fight. We were often seeing that there'd be more than there would be 2 minutes between fights, and the blade storm couldn't be used again. And since it's such a short duration, unlike, say, Avatar or Metamorphosis, that shorter delay means that it can be used and then in the next fight still be used as well. Great Hall build time reduced from 150 to 140, making their expansions a little bit easier, not their tier 3 expansions, since they have access to Tiny Great Hall. Farseer Feral Spirit mana cost was increased, but Chain Lightning was decreased. All right, so um, the synergy, you can still have that Farseer use both feral spirits and a chain lightning. It's just that you can't spam out those feral spirits as much. I like that balance. I like that balance by Blizzard there. Tranquility cooldown increased. This was something that definitely needed to be seen. Keeper of the Grove at level 6, that sudden power spike where he was able to heal in a battle. Your opponent then, forces you to scroll of Town Portal away since you couldn't stun the Keeper of the Grove. And then the following fight, he had Tranquility one more time after getting mana on that Keeper of the Grove. And well, now you're dealing with 100% health Night Elf army after 2 minutes. Very scary. Starfall cooldown increased. Uh, don't know how often we see a Priestess of the Moon in high level play, but it does make the Priestess of the Moon much more fun. I'm sorry, Starfall high level play, we still see it, but we're probably not going to see nearly as we're not going to see Starfall used nearly as much because it's usually Night Elf versus Night Elf solo hero. If it does come into play, gonna be great. Starfall mana cost reduced. All right, 200 to 150. Entangled duration on units reduced. All right, it's that level 3 entangle for 30 seconds. It almost seems like a knight or a bear completely gets shut down until it's dispelled. Thorn aura increased from point. Okay, so that thorn aura damage reflection is going to be very effective. We'll see if it comes back into that Night Elf versus Night Elf mirror match, where if you do have a large number of bears, the bears are actually tearing themselves apart when trying to attack. Mountain giants now start with +2 armor and but the hardened skin was reduced from 12 to 8. So that is going to give them a little bit more effective hit points, but remove how effective that hardened skin damage reduction is, especially for those lower attacking that lower attacking damage, like say spell breakers, things like that. Spell breakers versus mountain giants. Mountain giants will still most likely win that fight, but it's not going to be as one sided. Ultra Vision now requires tier 2. Ultra Vision was something that needed to move. Well, Ultra Vision was just something that all Night Elf players took for granted. That hey, we have benefit at night. Immolation mana drain duration or drain reduced from 7 to 6, but the damage interval reduced from 1 to 5. So it is now instead of 7 mana a second, 12 mana a second, but the the damage now goes from 10 damage a second to 16 damage a second. All right, all of these things working together. Immolation mana cost reduced 35 to 30. And so the mana required, okay, cost 20, mana required 10. All right, very nice. Druid of the Talon, Crow form now does piercing damage. I like that. I like that Druids of the Talon can now go into air mode and actually combat against destroyers if necessary. Before they were magic damage. Destroyers obviously immune to magic. No use there. Having magic damage on air units that couldn't attack ground didn't make a lot of sense. Druid of the Talon base damage reduced from 34 to 26. Druid of the Talon Crow form cost reduced, so they're easier to escape. Starting mana reduced. All right, so their starting mana reduced, meaning that their Cyclone is not going to be as effective. But anti-magic shell can now receive the same summon magic damage inflicted. This was something that absolutely needed to be seen. Unholy movement aura reduced even again. So really, I said this. I'm sure I said this many times. Movement is such a big key part of fighting, right? It doesn't matter how strong you are unless your units are in the right spot. They're not dealing damage or they're taking too much damage. And Undead with those quote unquote slow crypt fiends were actually getting away from faster moving base damage, faster moving units such as knights. They were just unable to close that distance, especially if frost armor and all that is applied. So adjusting unholy aura makes it harder for undead to run away, and doing those hit and run tactics. Animate dead corpses can now be killable and have disease cloud if researched. All right, interesting. Death Knights animate dead corpses are no longer dispellable. Okay, they're not dispellable, but they're killable. All right, disease cloud reduced from 90 to 75 seconds. It did feel like Disease Cloud lasted a bit too long. So after the fight was over, you were still taking damage back at home for so long, causing so much mana drain on the priest and the dryads and all that. Obsidian statue level increased from 2 to 3. Um, all right, I believe that. Wait, Obsidian statues were only a level 2 unit, even though they were 3 supply in the past? All right. Obsidian statues had a giant target because they were such a key part of the undead army. And on top of that, they gave less experience than other 3 supply units. That if that's true, then that does come as a shock to me. All right, Obsidian Statue Spirit Touch mana restore reduced from 3 to 2. That is, I love that. The fact that the Obsidian Statue, it was giving mana similar to, I believe, like a level 4 or a level 5 Brilliance Aura, was simply over the top, right? The fact that now Obsidian Statues give a little bit less means that the Death Knight, the Crypt Lord, the Lich, the Dark Ranger, they shouldn't be able to machine gun out those spells consistently, and they'll have less mana at the start of every single fight, as well, since Obsidian statues are obviously giving mana back at home. All right, Haunted Goldmine build time increased. All right, so expansions are going to be a little bit harder for Undead, which thematically they should be. Dark Ritual cooldown reduced from 25 to 20 seconds. All right, Dark Ritual mana reduced from 30 uh, reduced. Okay, so the amount of mana given off of level 2 and level 3 Dark Ritual is significantly less. I like that. I think the mana that it was giving back was just far too much, especially as the Lich was able to, say, deny Crypt Fiends, or and the synergy that the Lich had with the Dark Ranger, and those level 2 and eventually level 3 Black Arrows was a bit strong. Items: Wand of Illusion reduced from 3 to 2 charges. All right, um, that's that's great. Wand of Mana increased mana steal from 50 to 65. I absolutely love this. It's a way to get it closer in line with the Potion of Greater Mana. Um, Now it is a 260 mana swing if you're, but you actually have to get it from your opponent. I think it is a bit more balanced, and it doesn't feel like an instant sell on the Wand of Mana increase anymore. Legion of Doomhorn, movement speed, and the Django of Endurance, also movement speed adjusted because well, they're meant to be adjusted. I don't know if it's supposed to be a. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, it is supposed to be that. So half of what was up here, I believe. Yep, half of what was up there. All right. So let me know what you guys think about these. Um, the big takeaway I'm getting overall is Blizzard is still invested in getting Reforged correct and Reforged right. This is the first patch that I've seen where like things make a lot of sense to me. It looks like they got community feedback, they got pro level player feedback, that they had a number of cycles in the playtest realm before they finalized on all this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.